The movie is set in 1920, India, Adilabad Forest. Governor Scott Buxton and his wife Charan, accompanied by a detachment of British soldiers, visit a jungle settlement inhabited by members of the Gond tribe. While the colonizer hunts in the jungle, Charan listens to the singing of a little girl named Mally. Singing the song, Mally puts a beautiful pattern on the Englishwoman's hand. After a while, the hunters return from the woods. Charan shows her husband the drawing on her hand and says she would like to see this little girl on her mantelpiece. At Scott's nod, his assistant Edward tosses 2 coins at the girl's mother's feet. The British man says that the money is payment for Mally's singing. The woman picks up the coins from the ground, and Charan takes the girl by the hand, leads her to her car and pushes her inside. Mally's parents begin to realize that the money was not paid to sing. Their daughter was bought from them. The cortege drives away. The girl's mother, using the back roads, catches up with the car in which her daughter is being taken away and throws herself on her knees in front of the car, forcing the driver to slow down. The governor gets out of the car and orders one of the non-commissioned officers in his retinue to get the trash out of the road. The sergeant puts a gun to the woman's temple, but Scott stops him, saying that the price of a bullet is higher than the woman's life, and orders him to find another way. The sergeant finds a thick bow on the side of the road, approaches Mally's mother, and stabs her in the temple. The woman falls dead to the ground. The British drive away, and the Gondis stare in horror at the bloodied head of their co-villager. A suburb of Delhi, a huge crowd of Indians surrounds a small fortified post of the British colonial army. The angry men swing the chain-link fence, protesting the arrest of an Indian liberation fighter. The chief of the post calls headquarters and asks for reinforcements, but is told that help will not arrive until 7 hours later. One of the revolutionaries throws a boulder, which flies into the premises of the post and hits the portrait of the king. The chief of the post orders his subordinates to catch the criminal from the crowd and bring him here. Rama Raju, a local cop, takes on the task. He jumps over a fence more than 4 meters high and rushes into the crowd with a truncheon in his hands. The rioters pounce Rama, throwing to the ground and beating him. Rama gets up and continues to stubbornly pursue his goal. He catches up with the rioter, drags him to the post, and takes him to his commander. The mutiny is put down. The unit commander informs his subordinates of the names of 3 officers who have been promoted to the rank of Special Officer for distinguished service. All 3 are British. Rama goes to his house and punches the punching bag until it bursts and sand starts to fall out of it. Then he lets out a cry of powerless rage. A representative of the Nizam of Hyderabad comes to Edward and delivers a message to him, as Scott himself has gone to Great Britain. The governor and his wife have kidnapped a little girl from the Gond tribe. He compares this tribe to a flock of sheep that have their own pastor looking after them. And if a lamb goes missing from the flock, the pastor will go to the ends of the earth for it. And when he finds the stolen lamb in the jaws of the tiger, he will knock out the tiger's teeth and take the lamb from him. Then he asks him to tell the governor that the pastor has already gone in search of Mally, and that his name is Komaram Bean. The chief of police, in the presence of Edward and Charan, orders his officers to find Bean, about whom there is no information. One of the officers says that he can do it, and that he is the only person who can accomplish such a difficult task. The jungle on the outskirts of Delhi. Bean's helpers, Lakshu and Junga, prepare a trap for a large predator. Bean runs away from the rampant wolf toward the trap. Suddenly, a huge tiger jumps out of the bushes, scares the wolf away, and begins to chase Bean, who lures the predator into an ambush. The beast tries to break free, but the nimble and strong Bean fights the tiger and neutralizes him. Then, after stroking the head of the defeated beast, he asks its forgiveness and says he will use it for his own purposes. Soon, Beam and his assistants arrive in Delhi. He poses as a Muslim named Akhtar and gets a job in a machine shop. At this time, Rama decides to look for Beam among those who are fighting against the power of the British in India. He goes to a meeting of the revolutionaries and meets Lachu there. Rama declares that the problem must be solved radically, and for the revolution to take place, he offers to organize the assassination of the governor. On the way to the governor's palace, Lachu guesses at the last moment that he is being lured into a trap and escapes from Rama. He then tells Beam what has happened. Beam comes to the riverbank and gives money to a fisherman boy to catch fresh fish for him. The boy gets into a boat and sails to the middle of the river near the railroad bridge. After a while, a passing train crashes and the boy screams for help. Luckily, he is seen by Beam and Rama, who appears on the bridge. With marvelous dexterity and a series of tricks, they rescue the boy. The feat they accomplish brings the brave men closer together. They become friends, but since Rama is in civilian clothes, Beam has no idea that his friend is a police officer. Later, Rama helps Beam meet Scott's niece named Jennifer, from whom he finds out that Mally is in the governor's palace. One day, Jennifer invites Beam to her house for a cup of tea. She takes him to the governor's palace, where Beam finds Mally sitting behind bars and promises to free her soon. Beam finds out that in a few days there will be a grand celebration at the governor's palace, and that is when Beam decides to free Mally. Meanwhile, Rama detains Lachu and puts him in the cellar of his house. He tortures him and demands that he reveal Beam, but Lachu refuses to do so. At night, the prisoner catches one of India's most venomous snakes, the ribbon krat, and in the morning, during the interrogation, Lachu throws the snake at his torturer. The snake bites Rama, and Lachu informs him that he will die within the hour, and even his white friends have no antidote for the bite of the snake. So then Rama cuts the ropes on Lachu's wrists and frees him. The poison begins to take effect. Luckily, Beam finds Rama in a helpless state outside his house, and noticing the signs of snakebite, he prepares an antidote and leaves. After a while, Rama comes to his senses. He compares what he knows and realizes that his best friend is the rebel and conspirator Beam. A few hours later, Beam's aides disperse a truck which rams the palace gates. The driver of the truck removes the tarpaulin from its back and unlocks the cages with the beasts. Beam appears and tries to break into the palace, scattering soldiers and officers, occasionally throwing leopards at them. Meanwhile, a burning carriage driven by Rama pulls up to the courtyard. The carriage overturns and the burning wheel hits Beam. He rises from the ground and is very surprised to see his friend dressed in a police uniform. Rama tells Beam that he has been arrested, after which a fight ensues. Rama demands that Beam surrender or else Mally will suffer, and Beam is forced to comply. For catching the criminal, Rama is ceremoniously promoted to special officer. Rama recalls training with a wooden rifle under the guidance of his father, Commander Venkat. He wouldn't let them shoot real bullets, and once told a story about the cost of a bullet, about how Governor Scott once ordered the execution of one of the villagers, saving a bullet and finding another way to kill a rebel. After the execution, Venkat defected and returned to the village. In the morning, Venkat discovers that his son Rama has been secretly firing a rifle during the night. He wants to punish his son, but a girl named Sita intervenes and shows him the target the boy was shooting at. One day, British soldiers burst into the village and demand that Venkat surrender. In the firefight, Venkat is wounded and asks his son to shoot in his place. Rama destroys one soldier after another, and the British are forced to retreat. Venkat takes a promise from his son that he will make sure every villager gets a rifle and drive the British out. The wounded Venkat is surrounded by British soldiers, but Rama shoots the dynamite sticks on his father's belt and the explosion occurs. Sometime later, Rama writes a letter to Sita. He informs her that he is now serving in an armory and that he will soon be assigned to deliver a shipment of weapons to an area of the country. After a severe beating, Scott orders Beam's execution 2 days later. Rama proposes to hang the rebel not in prison, but on the riverbank in front of Mally, so that he does not become a martyr and his body can be thrown into the river. In the end, Rama helps Beam and Mally to escape, but falls into the hands of the British. Scott commands to execute the traitor. After a while, Sita meets Beam and Mally, helps them escape from the police, tells them what Rama is really planning, and convinces Beam to save his friend. Beam infiltrates the barracks where the prison is located. Because the British have mutilated Rama's legs, Beam puts his friend on his shoulders and helps him escape. They take refuge in the woods near the shrine of the god Rama. Beam, using folk remedies, instantly heals Rama's legs, and he regains the ability to walk unaided. At this time, the friends are surrounded by Scott's agents and soldiers. Rama takes the bow and arrows from the hands of the statue of his namesake, and begins the battle with the colonists. Each of his arrows strikes his enemies. Beam, meanwhile, holds a chopper taken from the British with one hand and uses it as a percussion-crushing weapon. After the British arrive in the jungle, the friends go to the governor's palace where Beam performs a stunt on his bike. He jumps off it, and Rama shoots an arrow with an ignited tip into the gas tank. The flaming chopper flies through the window into the armory and explodes. The fire breaks out, and the ammunition in the basement detonates. Beam manages to get into the armory before it is completely destroyed and pulls out several boxes of rifles and ammunition. Before Beam pulls the trigger on his rifle, Rama reminds the governor of the cost of the bullet, made in England and delivered by ship across the 7 seas. A few hours later, Beam and Rama transport the guns and ammunition to Rama's village, where everyone now has a real gun in their possession. Rama is reunited with Sita, Mally returns to her relatives, and Beam embraces Jennifer. After all that has happened, Beam, Rama, their relatives and friends dance a rousing Indian dance and sing a victory song.